Okay, this live is a little bit delayed. Normally I go live on a Tuesday. I have my family visiting, and as you can imagine, that kind of takes over things a little bit. And on top of that, last week I did the wrong live. So the live, how I normally do it is the live happens first, and then I have a week of posts linked to that live. And I got it a little bit wrong, what to do. So hello on this Thursday. Today, I'm going to talk about self-abandonment. And self-abandonment is a huge thing in the world of good girls. In fact, many of us are utterly conditioned to abandon ourselves in order to caretake, keep the peace, and be good, right? Good little girls. Even if we're adults, many of us still carry this ingrained or imprinted automatic reaction. So, many of us who have people-pleasing tendencies, they actually stem from childhood wounds. And you've heard me speak about this before. If you get my newsletter, I've written about it a lot. These childhood wounds can, be when we felt unseen, unheard, emotionally abandoned. Now, it's already hard enough as an adult, but to the young psyche, to an underdeveloped human being, in that case, conditional love sends the message that I must contort myself. I must twist myself into impossible positions in order to earn love and approval. And out of this deeply ingrained fear of abandonment, which I spoke about a couple of weeks ago, we learn to anticipate and meet everyone's needs, except our own. Our own needs come last, to the point that we minimize our feelings, we minimize our desires, we abandon our boundaries, so that often we become doormats or people walk all over us. And it might not even be out of maliciousness or people being cruel, but it's also, if you've ever known somebody who hasn't got boundaries, it's kind of convenient, they do stuff for us. It's convenient for those of us that are on the receiving end. Now we think subconsciously, if I can just be selfless enough, if I can just be kind enough, helpful enough, they won't leave. So when we lose touch with our emotional truth in order to secure love or avoid conflict, that is self-abandonment. And it could be so seductive because you feel so good when you're being, you're at service to other people. Now think about times when you've stayed silent when your boundaries were crossed, or perhaps suppressed anger, suppressed sadness, or even disappointment because expressing it felt selfish. Expressing it felt selfish. And how often do you push aside exhaustion and tend to everyone else's needs first? Now, interestingly, the last couple of days I've been super exhausted, because in a way, I'm kind of running a hotel at the moment, even if it's just my family. But it's like, and because, being with family can also trigger so many things, right? So, and there's this, I want them to have fun. I want them to relax, at the cost of me running around, cleaning, tidying, feels like all frickin' day long. So I'm not immune to this either, although I'm so much better. Now, as women, many of us are utterly conditioned to abandon ourselves in order to keep the peace, be good, as I said earlier. Now, our people-pleasing and phoning stem from a core belief that our own needs are not important enough. So let me give you some examples of ways that abandonment in childhood can lead to self-abandonment tendencies in adulthood. So, for example, unmet emotional needs as a child can create an imprint of feeling that you don't matter. And this, in turn, gets internalized when you're an adult. And then it becomes a belief that your needs are unimportant or a burden. Conditional love in childhood trains us to shape ourselves to earn approval. What else can I do? Let me bend over backwards. You say jump, I ask how high. And then we carry this pattern into adulthood, muting our true self in order to secure others' love. Emotional neglect or absence from caregivers is another one that can cause us to disconnect from our inner emotional world just to survive. And then we learn to tune out our own feelings and desires. So then you wonder perhaps why, perhaps in your body you're not feeling well. Maybe you get sick. And it's like, oh, maybe there's something to this. A lack of safe vulnerability in childhood can also stunt our ability to connect authentically. And yeah, in my childhood, there was just, this is how we are. This is how we have to act. There's no vulnerability in that. There's just facades and masks. And as a result, we start hiding away parts of ourselves, believing vulnerability will lead to more abandonment. Could be that another example is that you witness a caregiver abandon themselves. That in that case, then they're modeling self-abandonment as normal. And as a child, you then learn my worth comes from selflessly tending to others. One other example could be the lack of unconditional positive regard in childhood. That means we don't develop an internal sense of value outside of external validation. External validation being such a big thing. Our radar is tuned outwards rather than inwards. So we abandon our own needs seeking this approval. So when we self-abandon, when we numb, we shrink, we sever from our inner world, we only, often we breed shame, feelings of emptiness, our light dims, our connections flatten. Now the way out asks us to lovingly tend to our spirit again, or our essence, or our heart, to start honoring our feelings, our limits, and connect with our humanity once again. It means speaking up, setting boundaries, maybe stepping back, resting. And it's not from selfishness, but deep self-care. In fact, healing requires us to reparent ourselves with the unconditional love that we missed. Most of us missed that. So we can reconnect with our buried emotions and needs. And we must compassionately tend to the parts still frozen in childhood abandonment and release patterns of self-abandonment that keep us safe. This is how we find the way home. And just a few days ago, I was really in a slump. I was actually feeling really, really sad. And very often it's so easy for me not just to separate myself, to hide, to pretend everything is okay. But in this case, I decided to share with my husband. And I'm so glad I did, because it just made everything feel yeah, that it was okay to feel the way I do. Something was coming to the surface, and the opposite of hiding is to actually shed light on it. So good girls tend to hide how we're feeling, and then the medicine is to actually bring it out to the light. Now, like the resurrection of the good girl won't happen overnight. As many of you know, old habits die hard. But if you think about it, the moment, guilt and shame show up, who in your life can you speak to? Who can you share with? And, absolutely giving yourself permission to care for your soul again. Because worthiness is your birthright. And it's not always an easy route. But the most important part is that you're willing to walk the path. You're willing to look at what's not working and starting to say, I matter. How I feel and what I like right now, that matters, even if it might not be in alignment with somebody else. So it might make somebody feel disappointed. So if you're interested in this topic, go back in the last few days and look at my posts. And until next time, from my heart to yours, wishing you every happiness and connection and joy. Bye for now.